It's the motherfucking internet. Alright, internet. Alright, fuckers. That's what I call my dogs, the fuckers. She's not good to swear. I've been swearing more on these videos recently, but I very rarely swear in day to day. If you swear in an argument, you basically lose the argument. So that's probably not why I developed that. I just don't know. Just don't like slang either. Not a fan. Just think it's, I don't know. Sounds weird. I've even tried to stop saying mate and all that and calling people by their names instead. Yeah, it's an interesting one, slang. You can always tell when someone uses slang because they're trying to appear to play a role or whatever. I can always tell. I remember a guy that I went to school with was like saying, "Oh yeah, props. That's props. Like that's good. Like good for you." I was just thinking, it felt awkward to hear it. It was an awkward usage of, slang terminology. Or like, a girl in an art shop once, she's like, yeah, safe, yeah, sick, yeah, safe. And it's like, this feels contrived. I used to do it a lot. I used to say a lot of slang. I think I felt like it. I felt cool, I think. It made me part of a group of other cool people. But in reality, it's quite a lot of pretense. Is that the right word for pretentiousness? Lack of genuinity. Oh, I can hear people outside. You just can't hear that. So, I know I don't like using slang. I try not to use it. I don't know, man. I saw a quote about, it was like one of those stoicism pages on Instagram, and it said something like, I didn't realise that I'd worn my real face to a costume party with regards to life. And I was like, oh shit, is that really how it works? I think I must have a little bit of autism, or a lot, at times. And I'm not very good with subtleties. I don't really understand not being genuine. It doesn't seem to really compute. I don't get it. But I guess it ties in with the not lying thing. Well, I don't lie because I don't feel the need to, because I have faith in my abilities to. I don't know, if you tell the truth all the time, you don't really have anything to be scared of, in the sense of like, you always know that there's always a sense of there's not going to be a problem, because if you've got your shit together and you stick to the 10 Commandments, you don't lie, it's kind of like, not a free hit, because that's wrong, because there are people that don't do that will fuck you, but even when they do, I have this thing like there's a karma bank, and even if you get done over, you still, as long as you don't retaliate, you can actually benefit subsequently from her karma bank. I think that's kind of how this works. At least that's what I'm banking on. I think that's the point, though. That's about having faith, isn't it? Blind faith. Like, even when you feel like, is it Job? The book of Job, where this guy gets absolutely slated and smashed to pieces, basically, by God. And he just never gives up the faith. it's that like that's the hard bit, isn't it? Like when life's really hard. Excuse me. When life's really hard and you still stay like, no, this is all for a good reason. That's what got me through, actually, some seriously tough times. The Bible. Yeah, after I found out I had a repressed memory of being abused as a kid. And it hit me for 6, as you can imagine. And that's when I really found solace in the Bible. I don't really believe in picking sides. I think there's a very large possibility that all religions are the same thing, basically. So I don't believe in picking a side. I think the one that I've studied and found to be the most healing is Christianity, the Bible, albeit I have only looked into Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity. And Taoism. And I must admit, I haven't looked as deeply into any of them other than the Bible. But I have found that at the very least, the life lessons. I think there's possibility that it's metaphorical, the Bible. I think there's quite a large possibility that it's metaphorical. I could be wrong, but that seems to be an easier way to like break into it, if that makes sense. The Unitarian Church seems to be interesting, that Jesus was sort of like this very spiritual dude who did live, and yeah, some of the stories, yeah. I don't know. I haven't picked a side. I just know that there is something else. Higher. Like a higher power. And it's not to be fucked with. Not to be messed with. Like the fear of God, the fear of bad karma coming back is like... Yeah, I think I'm quite good at noticing patterns. So if I notice like the relation between, so say I can't think of an example. But something when you know that your moral compass is telling you not to do it, and you do it anyway, but then something happens to you. I think that the exact same thing happens to you that you dish out. And I think it's based on everyone's internal moral compass, because everyone has one, whether or not you choose to listen to it. And you get back what you put in, basically. And I think that's like Einstein's theory of relativity. Is that the one where it's like every reaction has a reaction? But that's not just in the physical, that's in everything. So like, that's why people that dedicate themselves to something get results. Or, you know, what's another good example? You get out what you put in. You sow the seeds. You harvest the seeds that you sow, basically. And that can be physical, spiritual, metaphysical, all of it. But yeah, the Bible saved my life, basically, in many ways. And I don't read it like a book. I haven't actually been reading it of late that much. I used to read it before bed every night. But I don't read it like a book. I just open the page, and then that page is what you're supposed to take in. That day that the universe is given to you, or God is given to you, or whatever you want to call it. It's like Rick Rubin talks about the song Chop Suey with System of a Down when he was producing their album. They were stuck for words, lyrics for the chorus or part of it. I think it was a bridge, actually. And Rick Rubin said to the guy, Serge, I think his name is, got the writer. He said, go to the books over there, open a page, and just the first thing that you see, try that. And it's the most iconic bit of the song. Oh, how's it go? Self-righteous, I die when angels are to do. I can't remember. I probably could, but so yeah, it's all about that kind of knowing of the universe, and like when you open a book, you turn to a page, that's what you're supposed to see right then. It's getting your head around there's more to this than just black and white. There was a Ricky Gervais said something about atheism, about how if this is basically Ricky Gervais's anecdotal explanation as to why atheism is real and God is not, basically faith is not. And it's basically along the lines of if science, so the science book and the faith texts, right? And if they started again, there was like a cataclysm, whatever, they started again, the science books would always come back the same because there's a test for it, whereas the religious texts would come back different each time. And that's probably gives credence to the idea that that's why there's different religions from different areas of the globe before we were connected. There's just different ways of worshipping the same thing. However, his argument, his point was that the faith text would come back different and the scientific texts would come back the same. And my point, I saw this on Instagram and I was like, well, explain the pyramids then. Because if science comes back the same every time, and this is like the atheist view, how is it possible that science was obviously different before, and we don't know how the pyramids have been made there? So it's not true, is it? What you're saying? In that part of that isn't anyway, because science doesn't come back the same every time, because it's literally we don't know how they were made. So it was obviously different before. So, but I don't see why it has to be such a divisive thing. Just like believe what you believe and allow other people to believe what they believe. The only thing that I do think, though, having seen different cultures from living abroad, is that in countries or cultures that are traditionally built on Christian values, it seems as though there seems to be a more harmonious sort of shared morals that seem to be most beneficial to the wider, greater good or more people. So, for example, stealing seems to be something that in traditionally Christian cultures, stealing is looked down upon, whereas it appears that the contrary sort of less forgiving side of extreme Islam tends to lead to the not so demonization of things such as thievery. Quite a few long words in there. But that seems to be what I've noticed. It seems that thievery is normalized in the slightly less forgiving nature that appears that Islam is sort of predicated on in comparison with Christianity. being incredibly forgiving. That's kind of the whole thing, isn't it, of Christianity? Whereas Islam is more homage, fear of God. Don't get me wrong, the fear of God thing is in Christianity as well, actually. There just seems to be that nuanced sort of difference in if everybody did Christianity, everything would be fine. Like, the world would just be sweet. But then we've had culture has twisted that. Because I've seen and read about the position of the burqa and the protective nature and ethos behind that is to basically protect women from the male, how do you call it, animalistic, barbaric sort of take sexually side. And while it appears that it's a very oppressive and un-Western, but also sort of abhorrently anti-women, actually the reason why it was implemented in the first place was to protect women. Because we've been so normalized in the West that sex sells, it's a harder sell that a burqa's there as a protective measure, because I think, from what I understand, the sexism and the misogyny in other parts of the world is decidedly more fervent. Fervent? Is that the word I'm looking for? But bigotry in any form, extremism in any form, bigotry in any form of anything is counterintuitive to the goal that should always be content, harmonious, settled community where equal opportunity is afforded to all. So, I am even tired from listening to myself do that monologue. There's quite a lot of heavy material in there. And it is quite late and I'm quite tired. But it does seem that, yeah, culture's messy, isn't it? A really interesting point that I was actually, I felt as if I was already doing prior to hearing that this seems to be a theory that the successful, harmonious communities are based on the individualistic stance of voluntary sacrifice, voluntary responsibility, and honesty and truth. And I kind of already got to that point prior to hearing it, but hearing it felt very affirming and quite nice. Well, quite affirming and quite nice. Responsibility, group sacrifice for the greater good of the group, shared mutually beneficial goals, and dogs. Lots of dogs. That seems to be the secret sauce on top of Christianity. But the problem with Christianity is everyone has to do it for it to work. So, that's your lot. And my tip of the day would be, don't eat yellow snow. It wouldn't be don't eat yellow snow. It would be learn an instrument. There you go. Weren't expecting that one, were you? What instrument, if you could master one instrument, which would it be? Ask yourself that. I'll give you a second to make an answer in your head. Do 10 minutes of it. That's it, no more, no less. Every day for a year. And you'll be very, very, very good. But don't do more than 10 minutes and don't do less. But make sure you do 10 minutes every single day without fail, non-negotiable. And with that, I bid you farewell. I bid you good evening. I bid you good night. Over and out, internet. Oh, got itchy nose. Over and out. Bye, internet.